Hello, people. Now, I quite like Kirby, and I also like game theory. I'll be honest, I really like this channel. I must have seen like all of his FNAF videos. I'm not joking on that one. I think this channel is pretty great. I like the editing and all that stuff, but this Kirby theory has a couple of holes in it, and this is not scripted, so I'm probably gonna get a few things wrong. I might make some dumb points, and I might sound stupid, but let's roll with it anyways. Honestly, kind of unironically a banger. Here's
Hello,
the thing.
Internet. Welcome to Game Theory,
Now here's
the
all
show
the
that
filler
hungers
stuff.
for the truth just as much as Kirby hungers for cake. Come to think of it, I also hunger for cake a lot
Hey, is that the cake from Portal? That's irrelevant, but like, yeah, it is. Whatever.
too, though. Okay, Game Theory, cake with a dollop of truth.
More like a no. Okay, well there is some truth, but like, my roast's not working. I should have scripted this.
Dear viewer, I ask you, what is the true nature of Kirby?
Oh, well, that's simple. You see, he is merely the reincarnated form of Void, reborn as a good figure who is naive and innocent and will take down any threat to Dreamland, and is a good person. Unlike what MatPat's gonna say. I mean, like, he did say specifically that Kirby is not a villain, he's just naive and that causes problems. Now, I don't know if I'm gonna do a video on part 2 of this, maybe if this video gets enough views, but whatever.
Now, most people would say that he's a cute pink puffball, the
I too say that.
hungry little alien protector of Planet Popstar.
And yet, yes, he still is.
Online, though, certain circles take a different view.
Reddit?
Kirby as an insatiable god. A
Yes, he is. He is that too.
walking black hole with no mercy for anything that he consumes.
I think he does have mercy. Like, I mean, you don't see him just like eating his friends like Ribbon and Kirby 64.
It's funny, for years I've had a suspicion that the Kirby series is more mature than we give it credit for.
Okay, that is pretty true, and that is like a lot of the time in most video game series, games are become less mature over time, but Kirby seems to be becoming more mature over time. It's one of those things that I love about the Kirby series. Like, oh my gosh.
I mean, it is the only Nintendo franchise to feature a naked woman after all.
Uh, 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 why is this a thing?
And if you've ever played a Kirby game all the way through, you probably know that the final bosses tend to be far more mature than any of the game that came before.
Oh, trust me, I played a few Kirby games all the way through.
As a kid, I was scarred by Kirby's Dream Land 3. One minute I'm playing in this childlike pencil-drawn world, and the next, Dedede's stomach rips open like something you'd see out of The Thing. And then you have Zero's eye shattering out of his egg body only to chase you down while it's still bleeding. I mean,
Yeah, rated E for everyone.
just a few minutes ago I was riding a freaking oversized hamster. But you gotta admit,
His name is Rick.
the Kirby strategy is actually kinda brilliant. The main story is cute and easy, and kids can get a sense of accomplishment for making Wispy Woods cry for like the umpteenth time.
Poor Wispy Woods.
But within most modern Kirby games now, there's deeper, more adult content hidden as a completion bonus for the hardcore gamers.
I have to agree with MatPat here. I think that I really like the way he says that. Like, yeah, like all of the people who are like good at video games are not just kids, but like get all like the full like more mature stuff. While the kids probably won't have any idea what's going on. I just think it's a really great way to tackle this series, and I really love it.
The hardcore gamers who, play Kirby games. As a result, you have the
I am a hardcore gamer, guys. I play Kirby.
this interesting duality that exists in Kirby games. Cute on the outside, but dark and twisted on the inside, like a rotting Tootsie Roll Pop. So what is Kirby?
A video game character.
Is he hero of Popstar, or is he world-consuming villain? A pink puffball for good, or a fiery god of evil? The games tell us time and again that he's a hero, but
Well, yeah, he is. I mean, he's saved the planet. He stopped world hunger by stopping Dedede. I mean, like, he's probably gonna find the cure for cancer next with his doctor ability. So, I'd say he is a hero.
can we believe what they're saying? Surprisingly, Kirby lore does have an answer. Over the years, the games have slowly been revealing more and more of what the true nature of Kirby is. And the answers they're starting to give are shocking. No, Kirby is not a hero.
Sure.
But he's also not necessarily evil
I like how you say that. That is definitely true. He is not evil.
either. It's my theory that if you manage to piece together all the clues sprinkled throughout the series,
Yeah, like in Squeak Squad, and the amazing plot Squeak Squad has. Uh, Squeak Squad's gonna show up later in this video. I'm gonna know that I'm going to have like nothing to say like against it because Squeak Squad's plot is so incredibly stupid.
canonically speaking, Kirby is a reincarnated god of destruction.
Okay, well, yes, that is true, but he is on the side of good.
The equivalent of a mindless super weapon
M- Mindless? Like, I'm not too sure about that, but okay.
related to some of the deadliest and scariest antagonists that have been haunting these games from the very beginning.
He may be related to them, but he's like a. The games say that he's more like a good side of the evil antagonist. Like it's kind of like a yin and yang thing, you know?
Sounds crazy, right? We're still talking about Kirby, aren't we?
You have no idea.
I thought so too at first, but based on in-game lore bits, all of this seems to be what the designers are intending to do
Are you sure this is what the designers are really intending?
with this character. So stick around.
Do you really think there's going to be a Kirby game, or is it just like, oh yeah, Kirby ends humanity just because he messed up a little bit?
At the end of this two-part theory, I don't think you'll ever be able to look at Kirby the same way again.
Yeah, I think I will be able to.
It may seem that Kirby's a hero because he's constantly saving his home Dreamland from multiple intergalactic threats, but upon closer inspection, you'll see one common thread across all of his stories.
Yes, the story is like Kirby's Pinball Land, Kirby's Star Stacker, and who can forget Kirby Tilt and Tumble?
Kirby is the one unleashing the threats in the first place.
In like how many games? 2? 3?
In Kirby's Adventure, the second game of the series, Kirby is on a quest to restore dreams to Dreamland. To do this, we're told that he has to collect pieces of the Star Rod, which was shattered by the evil King Dedede. In truly heroic form, Kirby assembles the shards, defeats Dedede, and Dedede begs him to stop. Literally gets dragged across the ground as he tries to convince Kirby to stop what he's about to do. But Kirby, who you'll quickly learn is surprisingly stubborn for a pink blob, ignores Dedede and goes through with replacing the Star Rod. But instead of saving everyone's dreams, this one simple act instead summons the true villain of the game, Nightmare, who needed the Star Rod as the last piece to completely conquer Dreamland.
No, the Star Rod was stealing him away. He wasn't using it to conquer Dreamland.
In one of gaming's earliest twist endings, Dedede was actually acting as the good guy the entire time. By destroying the Star Rod and giving the pieces to his guardians, our King Penguin here was trying to keep the powerful item out of Nightmare's evil clutches. Kirby, by assembling the rod and bringing it back, unleashes the evil that Dedede had captured and contained. It's no wonder that in future games, Dedede is described as having a grudge against Kirby.
I think that's more because of in like the first game, like Kirby stops like DDD's like a blatantly evil plan, And like even now, like Dedede just like in Kirby's Adventure, Dedede just like straight up like fights Kirby. Like you say Kirby doesn't ask questions, but Dedede didn't really explain anything.
This establishes very early on in the series that Kirby resorts to violence first and asks questions later. And it gets even worse from here. In Return to Dreamland, it's the exact same plot again. Floating Jellybean Magalore crash lands his ship on Popstar and asks Kirby to help him rebuild. Kirby, of course, obliges. Then, Magalore asks Kirby to go one step further by defeating the four-headed dragon Landia. What reason does he give Kirby for attacking this creature?
I mean, it pretty blazingly still on the screens. The dragon attacked Magalore. At least that's what Magalore says. So, I mean, they seem pretty violent and dangerous. So Kirby taking them out in his head is a good thing.
That it's evil? That it's a threat?
Yes.
He actually doesn't say all that much. But Kirby doesn't need a reason anyway. He just agrees and jumps into action, beating up a dragon that he knows literally nothing about.
He knows it blew up an entire ship just because it felt like it, or at least that's what he was led to believe.
Landia drops its prized master crown, and wouldn't you know it, but Magalore is there waiting, eager to snatch it up. The whole time he was misleading Kirby, gaslighting him, expecting our pink puffball to do the dirty work for him, taking a hit out on Landia just so he can swoop in and grab the master crown for himself. Definitely puts him calling Kirby his hero into a whole new context. Again, for a second time, we see Kirby just resorting to violence.
He, he was just trying to help Magalore out by getting the pieces of his ship, you know? I mean, he's not like. Whatever.
Hopping directly into action without.
You know, Kirby has a reason to trust people, and Kirby 64. Like, Ribbon is a good person and tells Kirby to fight the bad guy, and guess what? Ribbon is actually on Kirby's side. Same thing happens in Kirby and the Forgotten Land. If Kirby didn't help, you know, the universe might be destroyed or something by now.
Out looking to see what the real facts might be. In the process, Kirby winds up injuring a lot of innocents and
Innocent? They attack him first, you know, like you walk up to like a Knuckle Joe and like they'll like attack you even if you don't do anything. What's so innocent about that?
gives the evil Magalore exactly what he wanted, and what he was unable to retrieve on his own. What another creature, in this case Landia, was trying to protect. Kirby again unleashes a villain that, without his help, would have never seen the light of day. Speaking of villains who swoop in at the last minute, let's talk Milky Way wishes. When the sun and moon are fighting up in the sky, one civilian speaks up with a solution: Marx. His proposed answer to this literal star war is to summon Nova, a giant space watch that grants wishes, making it basically a nerdier version of Shenron from Dragon Ball. Kirby travels planet to planet to harness each one's star power, making him quite literally an invading alien army to the locals of that area.
As I said, the locals of that area are necessarily violent in trying to stop Kirby.
And after decimating 7 planets worth of creatures,
I mean, he doesn't like blow up the planets. He just like attacks like a few of the residents who happen to attack him. Like Kirby's just kind of like using self-defense as he just tries to get what he wants so he can stop the Sun and Moon from fighting. Which might end up like I don't know what the Sun and Moon fighting does. Like if it like gets worse, then who knows? Maybe it'll destroy like the entire planet also. But yeah, that's just a theory. I'm not gonna finish.
eat your heart out, Samus, Kirby successfully summons Nova. But before he can make his wish and justify all the damage he just caused across the galaxy, Kirby
At the top right, why does it say Kirby Extra Superstar Ultra? Like, I just noticed that. Like, why is that a thing?
is betrayed by Marx, who wishes to take over Popstar, meaning that for a third time now, we see a villain taking advantage of our innocent Kirby.
Well, yeah, Kirby had like little other solutions to the Sun and Moon fighting. I mean, like, it seemed like a pretty plausible solution. He, at the time, he had no reason to not believe Marx, and as I said, believing people can be a good thing.
Kirby goes on to defeat Marx, but also has to destroy Nova in the process, leaving the universe one step back from where this quest first started and
Well, actually, the Sun and Moon stopped fighting, so I guess that's pretty good. And like Nova, I mean, he can grab the wrists of evil people too. I think it might be a good thing Nova is destroyed, so that we don't have another problem like this, you know?
Ultimately invalidating all the bloodshed from all those planets that he just visited. But it's the fourth time that's really the charm for Kirby and starts to show the problems with his character. In Squeak Squad, Kirby's
Oh no.
strawberry shortcake goes missing, and Kirby immediately jumps to the conclusion that it must be the work of King Dedede.
Uh, ah, crap. I knew this would happen.
No investigation, no evidence, just a pure guess that it's the king. And from there, it's
I mean, the king is kind of established as the only one to steal food, but I can get where you're coming from, definitely. I mean, yeah, I guess it wasn't exactly the right thing to do.
straight to clobberin' time, with Kirby inhaling his way through Dreamland's inhabitants who have nothing to do with the cake.
It's still self-defense.
Kirby doesn't even assume that they have anything to do with the cake, and yet he still feels it necessary to destroy them as he goes past.
Yeah, because they're attacking him with laser eyes.
Finally, he gets to the castle where he promptly roughs up the king. Again, a huge amount of violence for some missing strawberry shortcake. And true to his ask questions later mentality, it's only after Dedede is passed out on the floor thanks to the Kirby beatdown that it suddenly occurs to him, quote, "Of course Dedede doesn't know anything about the cake." A bit late to figure that one out, huh, Kirby? Instead, it's revealed that the true culprits are the Squeak Squad, mouse-like thieves who stole the cake alongside a mysterious chest from Dedede's castle. Thinking the chest contains his missing dessert, Kirby gives chase and, alongside the Squeak Squad, eventually opens it, which releases yet another brand new evil, this time called Dark Nebula. Once again, an evil entity that was successfully kept trapped until Kirby got involved. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Wasn't Dark Nebula going to be released by the Squeak Squad anyway, no matter what Kirby did?
Fool me 3 times, it's getting repetitive. Fool me 4 times, and, well, maybe the series just needs to spice up its general plot structure.
What do you mean? This is like 4 games out of like, do you have any idea how many Kirby games there are? Like, seriously? I mean, like, it doesn't even need like too much of like a different general plot structure. Like, still, like, this is a kid series. Like, that just so happens to have a bunch of really good extra lore.
It's this 4th retelling of the story, though, that's especially revealing when it comes to Kirby's character. Because not only is Kirby creating the problems that he ends up having to solve, but in most of these circumstances, he has to be forced to actually take action to clean up his own messes. In Kirby's adventure, when
In Kirby Nightmare and Dreamland, Kirby attacks the halberd on his own. I mean, like, he's not forced to do that.
Nightmare appears, it's Dedede who literally has to launch Kirby at him in order to get him to do anything.
Yeah, well, Kirby was still in a state of shock at the time, like, and his floating is good and all, but he couldn't float up there by himself. He probably had no idea what to do until Dedede decided to help out. I mean, like, he only had like a few seconds. He didn't really have that long to react. It's not like he could plan out something in that time.
In Return to Dreamland, same story. Magolor betrays the team, and Kirby doesn't have a clue what's really going on. I mean,
He looks like he's pretty shocked still. I mean, like, he thought Magolor was his friend up until now, I guess. So, like, I'd be pretty surprised if that happened to me, so.
look at his face. It's
I'm
not until Landia, the dragon you beat all to heck for no apparent reason, picks Kirby up and throws him on his back that Kirby takes any action against Magolor.
He's still taking action on his own. I mean, he could have just like done nothing, but he decided to do something to help. I mean, like saying that Kirby has like kind of slow reaction time doesn't really have too much to do with him being a threat or like a villain. Well, okay, so he's not a villain, but whatever.
In Squeak Squad, it's even more telling. We literally just see someone release a galactic evil, and here's Kirby just worried about his cake. In fact, the game makes it very clear that that's the only reason he goes on to fight Dark Nebula. Quote, "The smoke envelops the squeaks and disappears into space. How awful. At this rate, the strawberry shortcake will be lost forever." Even at the end of the game, Kirby, who just saved the universe, only is happy when his cake is returned. Put simply, Kirby doesn't act heroically on his own. He just gets pointed in a direction, sometimes good.
What? Like, not always. Like, there was like that one time in the Star of Amazing Mirror where Kirby just straight up gets attacked by like Dark Meta Knight, and then like he decides to go help out like Meta Knight and all that stuff on his own. So like, oh, and then there's Triple Deluxe, where DDD is taken away, and Kirby just decides to follow DDD, despite DDD sometimes being like a rival to Kirby. Like, that's definitely a very good thing to do when he did it of his own accord.
More often bad, and just destroys mindlessly until the task is done. He's an unfocused weapon of mass destruction, not caring about good or evil or what he's fighting for, just
Yeah, he does care. It's not like he just like, goes around beating up DDD all the time. I mean, like DDD is straight up his friend in most of the games now.
fixated on whatever impulse strikes him in the moment, even in a story as absurd as Epic Yarn. Does anyone remember why Kirby decided to fight the evil sorcerer Yin Yarn? It's not because he was going around turning people into yarn creatures
Yeah,
like
boy.
a hero would. It was because Kirby wanted to eat a tomato.
Yeah, and he did eat the tomato. By pure logic, Kirby would just do like nothing after that and just like waves around because he had eaten his tomato.
Kirby saw his favorite food, a bright red tomato. But when Kirby tried to eat it, a caped sorcerer appeared. No, that's my magic Metamato. Kirby gulped the Metamato right down. Just then, a white sock around the sorcerer's neck began to glow. Then it sucked Kirby up.
In the stories we see, Kirby eventually aligns to the side of good, but it's rarely because he chooses to be good. He's
What? Yeah, he chooses to make his friends King Dedede, Meta Knight, and Bandana D. He like, why would he ever align with the side of evil even if they told him to? I mean, like, oh, my, oh my gosh. Like, Kirby makes a conscious decision to go with the side of good and do stuff like help McElroy or help Ribbon. I mean, it's not like he's just like, oh, I'm done.
the embodiment of a chaotic neutral force. Now compare his actions to those of both Dedede and Meta Knight. Dedede breaks the Star Rod to protect Dreamland, giving Meta Knight one of the shards to guard. The Pandora's box that successfully keeps Dark Nebula contained is housed in Dedede's castle for safekeeping. And when the king loses possession of it, Meta Knight is the one who steps in to prevent it from getting opened
Yeah, and then when it's released, Kirby is the one to take it down.
because the game outright says he knows what's in there. These are heroic characters.
Kirby is straight up both of their friends. He is heroic as well. Heck, they were also, when Return to Dreamland, were fooled by McElroy, and then, quote unquote, did nothing when he was transforming.
Purposely putting their lives on the line to defeat evil, even if their methods are sometimes misguided or questionable. Even when they're at their most villainous, the intent isn't nearly as bad as it might first seem. In Revenge of Meta Knight, his whole goal for conquering Popstar is to make it less lazy.
Yeah, and you do that with a weaponized warship of destruction. Yeah, totally normal.
He is literally the Sporticus to Kirby's Robbie Rotten. But screw that, Kirby boards the Halberd and blows up the entire ship. When the crew decide they want to go down with their captain, Meta Knight outright warns them, "You are about to perish. I'm sorry." That is an exact quote. Again, this is in a Kirby game. And here's Meta Knight saying, "You all are gonna die." Meanwhile, here's Kirby jetting away without a care in the world, and then watches as a ship full of people crash lands into the ocean. He literally watches them die while keeping that adorable smile on his face.
Though he's not smiling at that moment. If anything, it appears to be more of a moment of quiet reflection for him. And he is capable of like pretty smart thinking. Like he does think something got pretty poetic at the end of a Kirby Mass Attack. I forget exactly what it was. It was something about like the stars and like we can't get like light without like darkness. Like light doesn't shine as much without like darkness. So he can be pretty smart sometimes.
It all just goes to reinforce this idea that, for as cute as he is, Kirby just isn't very nice. In the puzzle game Kirby's Avalanche, we actually
But how can you miss it canon? Kirby's Avalanche is not canon.
get some of the best examples of how he interacts with his fellow creatures in these games, and his personality is not cute. In the game, the premise is that you puzzle battle anyone you come into contact with as you journey your way to the Dream Fountain. So, true to Kirby games, Waddle Dee happens to be your first opponent on easy mode, and here's your interaction with him. Kirby, hi Waddle Dee, are you ready? Waddle Dee, can we just walk together? The forest scares me. Kirby, sorry, rules are rules. Here is a poor innocent creature scared in the woods, and Kirby responds with, too bad I have to beat you in a glorified Candy Crush mod. Even other characters in this game recognize how
Did you just call Puyo Puyo a Candy Crush mod?
mean Kirby can be. A few battles later, you're fighting against Waddle Doo. Quote again, you did not treat Waddle Dee with respect. Now I, Waddle Doo, will repay you in kind. Even the people who are trying to help Kirby end up getting steamrolled in this game. I know what your dream is. And then Kirby just cuts him off. Go meddle in someone else's affairs, he says. Meddle in someone else's affairs? Dude, Kirby, Squidman was just trying to help you. And sure, that game may not be canon, but you know what
Oh, thank goodness he acknowledges it not being canon.
it is? Kirby's Dream Land 3. Now, in past games in the series, you could argue that Kirby was attacking creatures because they were part of Dedede's army. It's not the best argument, since relatively few actively attack Kirby, but you could make that case. Here, though, Kirby outright sees these creatures getting possessed, taken over by a mysterious dark substance from outer space. He should know that they're innocent, and yet he still chooses to swallow them, slice them in half with cutters, and stab them with swords anyway. It's just like Mario breaking the toads who'd been turned into bricks in the first game, except here it's even worse, since these creatures still look like Kirby's friends and neighbors. Doesn't matter, Kirby just runs in and tells them to get in his belly.
Well, actually, this is gonna sound really specific and make me look like a nerd, but in Kirby Superstar Ultra and Revenge of the King, you straight up quote unquote kill Bandana Waddle Dee. You can like swallow him or like destroy him using like abilities. And he still shows up to the room later, showing on King Dedede in an other Kirby game. So like Kirby there, like he isn't straight up killing them.
How about all those guardians I mentioned earlier from Milky Way Wishes? They were just there on their planet doing their job, protecting their star fountains, heroes of their respective worlds, but
Really? The whale is a hero? The freaking whale. And they were still attacking Kirby, you know, and Kirby was just trying to escape, really.
here comes Kirby, a literal alien invader who not so heroically beats them all up. And it would be one thing if Kirby actually cared about the creatures he was helping, but he doesn't. In one game, he's fighting against Dedede for stealing all the food in Dreamland because the people suddenly don't have enough, but then in the next, he is literally racing Dedede, consuming as much as possible.
I think there's a difference between all of the food and all of Dreamland. like a few meals of food.
In Dynablade, a giant bird is out there damaging all the crops of Dreamland. But is that why Kirby takes on the mission? No, it's because Dynablade flies past and caused Kirby to get knocked on the head with an apple, ruining
And also because Dynablade is straight up really dangerous and cut a mountain in half.
his nap and prompting a quest for bloody revenge. But even if that wasn't the case, look at Kirby's behavior in this game. Kirby fights to protect the crops, beats up Dynablade, once again asks questions later, only to find out that she had kids that she was protecting. Which
I don't think Dynablade can really talk. I mean, they're a bird.
in turn explains all the crop business. Kirby literally delivers a beatdown to a mother who is protecting her kids, something that could have very easily been avoided if Kirby hadn't run in guns blazing. And again, if you think all of this is a stretch, then I'm reading too much into these details.
You are.
not. The games at this point recognize the dangerous impulsiveness of Kirby, how it can be used for good, but also that it can be used as a weapon for evil. In fact, Kirby is descended from a line of evil creatures, a fact that the games are starting to make more and more explicit. So
Well, yes, he is, but it's, as I said, it's like a yin and yang thing. Like, he's like the good version of them.
I ask again, what is the true nature of Kirby? He is a chaotic, neutral god reincarnated into multiple generations with the sole purpose of destruction. But that part is a whole separate discussion for next week. In the meantime, remember, that is just a theory.
A
Game
game
theory.
theory.
Thanks for watching.
Even after all of that, I still really like game theory. In all of his videos, even some of them are a little bit stupid, but now I hope that my counter argument to all of that made sense despite this being unscripted and that you enjoyed this. Goodbye.